Nice to be here. And sorry, my name is Charles.
Oh, Charles, sorry. Not Charles. No, not Michael, sorry.
So could I have the first slide, guys?
Looks like they're loading it up. Give them 2 seconds.
Just number 2. That works. Yeah. Number 2, please. Yeah, cool. Thanks. I'm Charles, CEO of Smartfrog. Smartfrog is about IoT, a $1.7 billion trillion opportunity. We launched our product 24 months ago. And to date, we have users in 168 countries, and we have grown our revenue by 910%. This proves that our product market strategy works across the board and actually at the right acquisition cost economics. We have raised $32 million in funding from leading institutional investors and family offices and angels. And to actually successfully run and scale an IoT business, you have to control your value chain end to end. It's not only about providing scalable cloud or apps on different platforms and dedicated hardware and embedded software, but it's also about building real deep capabilities in marketing, e-commerce, supply chain, and CRM. And you need to be compliant with local law, taxes, and data protection regulation in different markets. So our horizontal IoT platform can support different vertical solutions. And we have started our business actually with focus on one vertical, which is security and surveillance. And the reason why? It's very simple. Security is important to everyone, and people are really willing to pay for it. So we are a software as a service company with a freemium and a subscription model behind it. We sell directly, and we have established partnerships with leading companies in the area of utilities and telcos in Europe. And we have launched a unique partnership, a white label solution partnership with Mobilcom Debitel in Germany, a leading mobile service provider. And we partner with retailers like Amazon. As we're growing business, we have adding business and artificial intelligence to our platform. And as we grow our reach, we start to sell different vertical solutions into existing customers and new customers, thereby increasing our reach in steps. And in the course of that, we actually acquire massive amounts of data in IoT and different sides, which will drive in the future new data-driven businesses and marketing opportunities going forward. So thanks for the brief introduction. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. All right. Now we have Tommy coming up from KUBO Robotics. Give it up for Tommy.
Thank you. My name is Tommy, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of KUBO Robotics. And at KUBO Robotics, we teach kids to code before they can learn to read and write. And what we have done is that we have taken the complexity of text-based coding and simplified it into something that we call the tactile coding language, which is basically puzzle tiles that kids can lay together to learn about software programming. Last year, I was also here together with my team, and we won the Web Summit pitch competition, which kind of boosted our company. So I'm just going to give you a short recap of what happened during the last year. After attending Web Summit, we launched our Indiegogo crowdfunding campaign and sold KUBO in 39 countries. And we went 180% of our sales target. We sold KUBO to 170 schools in Denmark, and we found our manufacturing partner in Denmark and also a Nordic distribution partner. So now KUBO is available in Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Denmark. And we spent the time collecting the right team. Building a hardware company really requires the right set of skills, especially when you want to distribute it into the education market. And luckily, in Denmark, where we are from, we have a company called Lego, and it's been possible for us to hitchhike some of their very talented people. Thank you very much.
Come join the panel. Come on up. Okay, so we have some, again, very diverse ends of the spectrum here. Post-crowdfunding, going direct to consumers or teachers or parents, and what your solution, which you didn't show, but if you go to his website, you'll see they've been able to create a consumer-looking solution that's ended up being a very big B2B or B2B to C actual business on the back end. So why don't we start with that? Last panel, we talked about go-to-market and reverse engineering it. What have you guys thought from just the basic business model to put yourself in a position to survive, as you all know, that huge chasm in the early days of building your hardware company? So what's your plan now, because you're still in the early days, and then how did you solve that as you probably went through those problems when you started out?
Well, one of the things that we've learned quickly is that if you address B2C and B2B, it's two completely different customers. Consumers or parents will have much more questions. They need more activities when they use our product. So it will require a different organization. When we sell to schools, we can partner up with established distributors, and we can use their people to actually onboard all the teachers when they use our product.
What about you?
I think there have been three factors really helping us through this initial phase. The first, I think, and maybe not untypical, our founders and our management team are really seasoned people. We have already, scaled 3 consumer companies like Strato, Click and Buy, and AVG. And we have really deep expertise in hardware supply chain and in software platforms, in artificial intelligence and other areas. And I think that's one aspect. The second aspect is having really build a network of partnerships with large corporates who really help us take our product to market, which we think is probably the real gold standard in scaling your business very quickly in IoT or consumer IoT solutions. Yeah. And thirdly, we had investors, which allowed us actually to build those partnerships, which take typically 2 years, to get to fruition and to help that scale. So these were probably the 3 leading things that helped us going to there. But I fully appreciate those guys who go through hardware. I used to run big hardware companies and know what it is. And partnering is really a very important step in helping you grow your business very quickly. Okay.
I want to touch on that topic. So you're talking about distributors that are working with educators, maybe school districts, or maybe even educators like for the whole country, maybe even like the prime ministers of education. We are talking about B2B partnerships on the distribution side. This is something that I think a lot of hardware founders, I'm sure a lot of you have thought about this, is talking about the role of corporates. Now, most corporates own all the channels. They already have all the access, all the customers. So how have you approached that as an early, let's get into the details. You're early, you guys have raised money and had years and years and years, and also experience doing this and cracking this. I'm not sure if this is your background. Maybe you didn't come from this particular background. So how have you worked on that B2B from a distribution perspective strategy?
Well, first of all, we did a screening process to try and understand what kind of distributors are there in the market. What kind of vision do they have? What kind of experience and competence do they have in bringing a product like ours into the market? And how big is their market share for products that we are, for the robot that we are selling? And based on that, we kind of made a scoreboard, and we could see which distributors would be the ideal fit for us, to try and figure out what criteria are important when you choose the right partner.
B2B.
Well, B2B, as you know, we offer a subscription product. €5.95, you have a camera, cloud storage, and an app in, and you can cancel that subscription anytime. So, as usual in subscriptions, your key economics is how expensive is it to acquire a customer. Yeah, and I think a lot of people who are based in hardware-based products really underestimate if they go direct into market, even Facebook and all the other channels. Your acquisition cost is really fighting you there on every step. So we learned in our previous businesses that while it might be expensive and you need really strong backing to build partnerships, it reduces your go-to-market costs and increases your conversion considerably. So we put a very big focus when we designed our company actually to be able to sell through partnerships in different areas and to bundle our product or to sell white label solutions to partners to help them in a business problem. They help us scale the market, and that's maybe the difference in our approach here.
So I'm going to make a leap of faith here. So if I'm wrong, just call me out in real time. So seasoned veteran working in the hardware game, you don't see as many of these guys on the crowdfunding campaigns, bright eyes, psyched on hardware for their first time, because you've done it. And you approached it. Something that really impressed me with their business model the first time I saw this was they were letting you take your old phones, old technology, and create security cameras like Nest and all these alternatives in your home. So you didn't have to make hardware at the beginning. I mean, you can buy their hardware now, but you didn't have to. Whereas I'm assuming this was maybe your first hardware company, and the excitement of the consumer and the crowdfunding, and I'm sure a lot of your team, it's your first time. So how do you deal with, from your side, the obvious lack of experience that he takes for granted? He's probably forgotten more than you and I will ever know from this particular field. How do you deal with that in the earliest days, like when you build your team, when you're trying to figure out that strategy to make sure you don't have the blind spots that maybe these guys take for granted?
Well, the last year we've learned that we've been naive when we plan. It often takes much more time than we think it does. But there are many, when it comes to manufacturing, we have found manufacturers that have 20, 30 years of experience. And instead of us building our own production line, which would be very costly, and you would need highly skilled people, we try always to find the partners that can do the things that are not critical for us. What is critical for us is to design the product and be with the end users and kind of get their feedback all the time. But it's not critical for us that we understand how the whole production line runs. We can outsource that to somebody else.
I don't hear many founders in the early days say that. That's amazing. We hear that same thing all the time from founders. They want to learn how to make it, manufacture it. China will always be better. Germany and Poland will always be better. You need to understand the customer. You need to build your business. So what about on your side? So you had experience. You guys had a whole senior team. But what are those gaps that you found that you had in the early days that you didn't foresee?
I think the real gaps were around how. I think it's mainly around the data side, yeah. So we really had a hard time building the data and AI teams. That's and talent is, I think, a running topic here. How you get really people in there who can make sense of what you're doing in the IoT space and your business intelligence side. That was one thing that was, and the other one is really. I mean, it is really, really hard to make a telco really sell your product successfully at scale. You need to turn so many knobs and cogs in a wheel, and it takes really dedicated teams, to do that. And you really need the patience to bring these things on live. And sometimes you're really, you're really desperate. Will you really make it, or will they really help you? Will they continue working with you, and so on? And these are such big channels for you that you sometimes get a little bit wobbly, But then, obviously, seniority sometimes also keeps you a little bit calmer, and you can be a bit steady. But that's. But I think in the end, it's really having the right team together. And my recommendation is to bring in people, and they're still in Europe. There's still about 10 or 12 like that, who know how to design hardware to cost, and know how to build, work with design houses and suppliers in a way that doesn't kill you as a startup immediately. And you just need to find them,
So you both hit on a point, which is partnering or finding the people with the experience. Raise your hands. Who here that's building hardware is building their first hardware company? Raise your hands. Okay, down. What about second, third, or beyond? Who's on their multiple hardware companies? Not that many. Okay, fair enough. You? Okay. I think this is really critical, and I'd love to talk about these other types of partners that help build the ecosystem that allow you to build a scalable hardware business, because I think a lot of founders like yourself learn that you need guys like him. Like if you had his team early, you would have gone faster. You would have avoided some of those mistakes. But what are the other partners besides maybe the early co-founders or just the manufacturers or distributors? What are those kind of hidden partnerships that hardware founders need to know about that they're going to need in the early days to succeed in that early kind of trough?
Well, when we started out, we were straight out of college, and none of us in the team had experience building a hardware team. And luckily in the city where we were from, there is something called Otzen Robotics Startup Hub, which is an accelerator program for young startup companies like ours. And we were luckily to come into the program. And in the program, they had experienced people that knew how to build the supply chain and ask all the critical questions that we didn't know ourselves to ask. And that really boosted it for us. I think building hardware, and if you don't have hardware experienced people in your team, you really need to go out and find the right partners, because it can be a nightmare, really.
Okay, so accelerators, that's awesome. What else? What other partners are in that ecosystem that you need to be successful in the early days?
I think in the end, you end up with working with certain design houses, with certain manufacturers. You need to build trusted relationships. We build a presence in China to actually manage relationships. You need to be very close to the market on the cost of your components, the life cycles. You need to manage your IPR related problems, and a lot of this, your certification, and you really need to make choices on the quality of your components and how long you want the life cycle of your products to be, the quality at the end of your. And so what we did is we started to mobilize networks of single experts out there to help us at certain points, like how do you ensure that the quality of the product coming off your assembly line actually is not 13% defect, but below 1%. And that means going through the whole manufacturing assembly process with your partner to understand that. Now, as a startup, you probably never will get that know-how in there, so you need to find people, and they're out there. You just need to raise your hand and say, hey, guys, particularly in Scandinavia, there's a whole ecosystem of ex-Nokia guys out there, which actually is pretty versed in these questions, and get help on a punctual basis. Where do you need help? And then really bring them in, because so many things can go wrong, and if you don't manage it properly, then there's a whole other thing around embedded software and devices. Now, some products, some of you guys will build your products from ground up. You control that stack. Some others in IoT are tempted to buy stuff and adapt it slightly. There's another challenge in security and other things. So we had to bring in we actually rebuilt the software on any product we touch. We build our own embedded software, and the only reason is security and giving control over that. Yeah, and we had to bring in some experts there as well.
Can I add something? Because I think you need to go and see the whole production line and understand how it works. Also to understand the possibilities you have for further development. But we didn't need to own the production line, but we were a part of the sourcing process, which means that we spoke with all the subcontractors from China and all over Europe that delivers all the components. So we understand the whole process, and now we feel comfortable just letting it over to somebody else that are more experienced.
Super critical insight. I think this is something for anyone that's interested in hardware. The difference of being a software founder, you can sit in your house, you can build Instagram. You cannot sit in your house or your office or just one town and build a hardware company. I'm going to ask, who here has been to China? Raise your hands. Cool. Those of you that didn't, fix that.
Yeah.
If you are thinking at all, you need to be looking at China. You need to get in the plane, take your first flight. We are out of time, so I'm just going to give it up for these guys. Give them a round of applause, guys. Hey guys, so we have the next conversation is going to be